Minute 10, Foxy's return. Foxy was also missing along with Bonnie this time around. However, with the inclusion of Roxy, who seems to be like the Sephora version of Foxy, we didn't really seem to miss them all that much, especially since Roxy also runs hella fast, basically just being a gender-swapped form of the lovable Fox. However, seeing Foxy make a triumphant return could be an interesting concept for a DLC. Maybe he was having a form of like lover's spat with Roxy, and then that's why she keeps telling herself that she's beautiful and the best because Foxy broke her heart or something. I don't know. I don't think that they would do that just because of all the horrific fan art that it would generate. Like, yeah, of course there is already fan art about this, but having it confirmed as canon would make everyone go absolutely nuts. God, I'm actually shaking at the thought of that. That sounds like a horrible idea. Anyway, lots of fans have already modded or put Foxy into the game some way or another, so clearly it's an in-demand idea. And honestly, if we did something like the whole missing animatronics showed up for a full-on battle royale with the new ones, I think that would be epic as hell. Freddy Mech for the win. In a 9 arcade conspiracy. That's right, I'm talking about this again. The arcade conspiracy gets its name from one of the lore duffel bags that we can find, where we learn that something else seems to be going on here. I'm gonna keep making that joke every single time. Quote from the arcade conspiracy note. Exit interview. They are working together, the arcades. They're hiding something. The glitches. Glitch them all at the same time. Then the princess will recognize me. She's testing me. I am not yet worthy. The others are protecting it. Let me stay. I am so close. Just one more night. Please. I can save the princess. Now it's clear that this seems to be referring to the Princess Quest games. However, it doesn't seem like we have to glitch out those arcade cabinets in order to get their ending. We just have to beat them in order from 1 to 3, and then boom, we save Vanny. So what could this really mean? Well, there are 3 other arcade machines that seem to be having mysterious glitches, or there's something wrong with them as well. The Balloon Boy World game that you can find in the secret room in the theater, Chica's Feeding Frenzy, which won't turn off even when unplugged, that you're supposed to be able to find in the bakery, and the Monty Golf A arcade game that is, according to its duffel bag, shouldn't be in the mini golf area but somehow is. However, while you can play both Balloon Boy World and the Monty Golf game, Chica's Feeding Frenzy isn't actually playable. You can only access it using a mod menu that lets you cheat it in from the main menu. So adding in this arcade cabinet could mean that there's something bigger going on here than a simple DLC, which honestly I would love. And currently my my high score is still 14 for Monty Golf, where the lowest score is 13, so still feel pretty good about that. In at 8, VR. I don't care how many of you are against it, I am actively hoping that, like how Help Wanted got a flat screen version, that Security Breach will get a VR version, or port, or whatever you want to call it. Is it likely? No. Do I want it? Yes. This game was pretty fun normally, okay? But in VR, I think that this would be one of the most intense and exhilarating VR games that I've played. Aside from Bladed Sorcery, but that's just because it awoke something within me. Some of the cutscenes would need to be modified, probably by giving us a third-person perspective instead of the normal first-person. But other than that, I think it would be incredible. Like, imagine playing Phaser Blast in VR against Mommy Chica. Bro, all the Vanny simps would let themselves get killed. And then I could have some fun walking around as Freddy, pretending to be invincible and punching animatronics. I really want this, okay? It may be complicated to do, but I'm willing to wait, damn it. But exploring the Pizzaplex in VR is kind of goals. I know that there are like VR chat and rec room maps that let you do this, but they're not the real deal, man. Combine this with some of the other ideas on this list, and oh boy, would it be an amazing experience. Whoa, doggies. I know that they said they wouldn't do it, okay, but Scott says a lot of stuff that he doesn't mean, so. And at 7, Secure and Neutralize. Now, the Secure and Neutralize concept comes from Knitter user The Silver Sea, and how they describe it is basically a pacifist route, where instead of playing through the story and destroying the other animatronics, you'd instead be able to befriend them and remove them from the game, basically. At certain points in the animatronic boss fights, you'd be able to choose whether or not you commit to the destruction of the animatronic, and if you choose not to, the pacifist route would start. After choosing not to kill, you'd strategize about how to take the animatronic down, which would already be determined in the story, but like for story purposes you'd have to figure it out. Maybe Freddy would offer a suggestion. Then you'd remove the CPU that Afton is using to control the animatronic out of their back, and the animatronic would reboot. After rebooting, they'd have no memory of what happened, and then you'd be able to lead them back to Rockstar Row and put them in their changing station or green room for the rest of the game. This concept is actually pretty interesting, and if you want to read more about it and get more in detail that I can't actually get into in this video because it's a top 10, The link for this will be in the description if I can remember. If not, yell at me in the comments. And at 6, DAYCARE Redo. The DAYCARE Redo DLC concept comes to us from FNAF Wiki user Glitched Morals, saying that they came up with a side quest with benefits called the DAYCARE Redo. Quote from the post, here's how it works. Instead of being pushed out of the slide when attempting to go back into the daycare after being banned, there is an option to talk to the son. Gregory can apologize for breaking the rules and ask if there is anything that he can do to make it up to him. Son will send Gregory on a few missions to do certain things, like bring back a certain item to him or clean up the play structures that he knocked down. They will need access to a cleaning or janitor pass, which can be obtained from a present box. And if Gregory does all of these missions, he will have Son's trust back, which will result in a few benefits. He will have full access to the daycare again, which will have extra secrets and collectibles to actually have the full access be worth it. Play structures are now new hiding spots for hiding from animatronics. You'll have access to a new room that is the daycare storage room. In that room is extra structures and toys that are found in the daycare. Presents and duffel bags will also be in this room. Son will give Gregory a daycare night pass, which will result in the moon no longer chasing Gregory anymore, even when the lights are off. And Son can be interactable, and with him, Gregory can watch different movies in the fast theater, play hide and seek, and other mini games. Honestly, this seems like a pretty solid idea, and actually a pretty interesting one, so good job, Glitched Morals. The link to this post will also be in the description, if I can remember. Halfway through into number 5, multiplayer. Now, with a working pizzaplex, there comes the idea that doing this with friends would be an amazing time. And honestly, this is one of the things we've been wanting for ages. When a multiplayer FNAF didn't really make sense before, a working pizzaplex would make the most sense. Being able to explore the pizzaplex during the day with friends and even random people online would be awesome. And honestly, if this isn't in a FNAF DLC, I'm sure someone's going to make this happen in VR chat or Rec Room or something like that. I mean, like, there's already a mod, but that's where you play as animatronics, and I just want a whole load of kids running around the pizzaplex, you know, being able to play all the games. However, if this was in the real FNAF game, I think it would be the most beneficial. However, VR chat is a free game that you don't need VR to play, despite what the name would suggest, so it would be better for fans unless this came out as like a free DLC of some sort. Which honestly, considering how the game was released unfinished, a lot. A DLC that fixed things and then actually gives us multiplayer would actually be nice if it was free, especially if it's just fixing issues, okay? Anyway, a multiplayer pizzaplex would be perfect. And at 4, daytime mode. Being able to explore the pizzaplex during the day is something that I think we can all agree we'd love to see. Being able to actually play these games without the ominous threat of death would be a great addition to this game. I want to play laser tag without having to worry about Chica chasing me, okay? Unless she's chasing me in a romantic way because someone wanting me that bad is kind of goals. But for real, the ability to just mess around the pizzaplex during the day would certainly be fun. No restrictions, just full passes or whatever. Or maybe we have to earn tickets to pay for the passes by playing the various arcade games. I think that would be pretty damn cool. Combine this with the multiplayer mode and this would be crazy. Although I guess multiplayer mode would kind of imply that it's during the day since the story doesn't really allow for multiplayer. So let's just assume the daytime mode would just be you on your own. The single player daytime experience, which sounds like a really bad sitcom. Like, not one that's so bad it's good, but just like a bad sitcom. Mostly because of the name. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, Burn Trap. With everything that was left up in the air about Burn Trap's ending, us being unsure whether he's actually dead or if the blob decided to save him, getting to see more of Burn Trap or even more of Burn Trap's story, maybe some explanations as to what happened in between the games, or maybe even some potential backstory to the character of William Afton, would surely be greatly appreciated by the community. If there's anything that I've learned by talking about this series every day for a year, the community doesn't like talking about any theory that isn't what they've already believed to be true, and they'll consider these theories canon and proven despite them not actually being confirmed. So, literally anything getting confirmed about this character would be a win in my eyes, especially if we finally get to see William officially die on screen. You have no idea how much I would love to watch William finally kick that sweet, sweet bucket on screen. Huh. Better than any orange YouTube video ever. But ultimately, in at number 2, Inspector Gregory. Bonnie was missing from Security Breach, having been destroyed most likely by Monty, but perhaps getting to investigate Bonnie's disappearance and being able to change how things go with the Security Breach lineup would certainly be an interesting mission. If we were meant to truly investigate this, turning the DLC into a bit of a detective game, I think that would be a really compelling and fun storyline. And from what I've seen, we all want justice for Bonnie, especially since we want Papa Freddy to be reunited with Bonnie since he seemingly really misses him. Considering the dialogue from the first recharge station at least, when Gregory asks about Vanny, and Freddy says there is no bunny in this pizzaplex, not anymore, in a very somber way. Plus, I mean, I've seen enough animatronic alligator thirst traps on TikTok that I kind of want Monty gone. Yes, it was only the one thirst trap, but it was for Monty, okay? It's rough, man. Well, okay, there was only one for the actual animatronic. There was more for cosplays of the animatronic, but dear God. And finally, in at number 1, choose your guardian. I'm pretty sure you all wanted this, and I'm pretty sure it's the thumbnail for this video. Currently, the Choose Your Guardian concept is the most popular idea for a Security Breach DLC. Well, at least from ideas that came from fans. The idea behind this was that you'd play through the story again, but this time you'd choose which animatronic would come to defend you instead of Glamrock Freddy. The post on Reddit by user SpaceBear suggested Chica and Roxy, with Roxy carrying you instead of hiding inside her stomach. However, unfortunately, I don't think that this idea is very likely. Despite jokes in the Help Wanted DLC that the DLC was not a canon addition to the game and it had no hidden intent or purpose, this was not the case. And we know that the DLC is canon and had hidden intent and purpose. However, this DLC, the Choose Your Guardian DLC, would cause too much chaos to the story to actually work well. It would just make too many things confusing, and there is no way that they would make a non-canon DLC in my mind. But I do like this idea, and I think that it should be a mod. We can probably make it work in some way, I'm certain of it. You'd need the voice lines, but I'm pretty sure there are some fans that would be able to recreate the voice for the mod. Getting the actual voice actors would probably be a little too expensive for a mod, but yeah, unfortunately I don't think this is very likely, but hey, maybe it's a good mod. And at 10, meaningless collectibles. While yes, the collectibles are fun things that you can go around and steal all over the pizzaplex, I think that a DLC adding more collectibles that don't have any significance is a pretty bad idea. There are plenty of difficult to find collectibles already, so if you're to make more in a DLC, I think that they should actually have some form of meaning with those collectibles. Whether they're references or Easter eggs, it doesn't really matter, but we definitely need some form of meaning, because getting all the normal collectibles that in reality are stealables, if you ask me, is already quite the task, especially if you keep the whole you're unable to save after getting Roxy's eyes thing, because that is just some serious bad juju if you ask me, although nobody really has asked me. We all hate the mechanic, alright? And at 9, repaired animatronics. Considering how the whole point of the game was to destroy these animatronics so that we'd end up wasting enough time for the doors to open, repairing the animatronics in this DLC for whatever reason it might be would be a huge disservice to the game. Yeah, you might need them for something, but if that's the case, you shouldn't have to have them repaired. Plenty of different sections in the game use both destroyed and repaired animatronics depending on how you've completed the story. If you destroyed Chica and then go to Phaser Blast after the ending, you can end up having to dance around a destroyed Chica, so forcing repairs on these animatronics just destroys what we spent the entire game doing. We did it illegally, but also considering how the game is past 6 AM and will always be 6 AM no matter how long you play at that point, you can be fairly certain that they would not be able to repair the animatronics in time. And at 8, bug fixes. Okay, now don't get me wrong, this game is in dire need of some serious bug fixes, but I, along with I'm sure everyone else, would be absolutely furious if those bug fixes came in the form of a DLC. At least if the DLC is a separate purchase that we have to make like the Help Wanted DLC was. If I have to pay for bug fixes that I should have already had, there's going to be a problem, because if a game is released unfinished, there needs to be a remedy to that in the form of updates. Easy updates that fix the major issues with the game, like I don't know, falling through the world. And if there is a paywall to get those updates, I think I know a couple of websites that can help me get around that, because in all honesty, that's incredibly messed up if the bug fixes will only be in the DLC. But I don't think Steelwood would do that. I just get worried since they're still working on updates but also still talking DLC. And at 7, DAYCARE. The Moondrop DAYCARE section was certainly a great bit of fun, despite the constant darkness and the demon chasing you. It was strangely like my mind. actually. However, while this section was certainly fun and one of the best moments of the game, I don't really want to repeat it. It took me so long to do properly the first time, so any reason to have to go back into the daycare, whether it be because we dropped something or whatever other reason they'd come up with, I don't want to do it. Do not send me back to the goddamn daycare, or I swear to God. Like, it was fun the first time, but I'd rather not spend another 3 hours nearly ripping my dick off trying to find another generator. I don't want to deal with the daycare attendant at all, if that's possible. Just the fact that the first line as Moondrop is naughty naughty boy, it puts me on edge. Especially for a kid who's like the size of a 4-year-old. Not in real life. I'm taller than a 4-year-old, I hope. Like, okay, look, it's just setting off all kinds of radars, alright? And it's 6 post-credits. While yes, I said another ending would be nice in another video, having any post-credit scenes should really be saved for the next full game. Especially since we don't know where the next IP owner will be going with this series. So I'd like to leave the endings where they are. And any DLC should take place before the game starts or after 6 AM hits, since 6 AM seems to be the most logical time for any serious change to happen, since employees would be starting to come back and prepare for the day. So things like additional areas or attractions opening would make sense. Basically, the daytime protocols would activate. Or it could be like a DLC starts if you go to the main stage when Vanessa asks you to, when you're trying to leave. When you're trying to get to the main doors while the daycare attendant's chasing you and she says, oh, come to the main stage. Yeah, that could do that. And it could start like a whole new story kind of mission with, wait for it, autosaves. That would be amazing. Someone in a recent video also mentioned that there's unused Freddy voice lines that say that the stations got hacked. However, firstly, that means nothing since it's unused, therefore it's not canon. Secondly, it still makes no sense, because if he's able to escape, why have the saved stations? Like, why hack them at all? It doesn't really make sense unless you want to screw with the business, since in the world of the game, the save stations do nothing for Gregory. They only help us in the game sense. Do you get it? Halfway through into number 5, post-game. Honestly, I'm fine with the DLC taking place post-game, and it would make the most sense. However, I don't want to see a post-game DLC where you can't save the entire time. And that's what I fear the most when it comes to Security Breach, okay? If we're getting a whole new section of the game, basically a new game in and of itself, we'd better be able to save throughout it, which Steel Wool might see as actually compromising the intended difficulty of the post-game, so I don't know what they're going to do. I had to put it out there again. If this is going to be some post-game DLC, you need to make sure that saving is allowed, even if the save spots are only available like in the sections pertaining to the DLC while the DLC is active or something like that, because otherwise it's going to be too much of a pain in the ass to actually get through. And I don't know how many people will actually want to play it if it's that way. Rather, they'd probably end up just wanting to watch someone else play it, which is fine if the person you're watching play it is me. And 4 questions. When we get this DLC, if they do end up making one at least, I don't want to be left with more questions than we had at the end of the main game, alright? Scott loves to clear things up from previous games with the next one, and a DLC is a perfect way to do this. And he did this with FNAF VR and its Curse of Dreadbear DLC, with confirming that Glitch Trap was meant to be Afton. So, if we come out of this DLC with more questions than answers, while in typical FNAF fashion, I'm still not going to be a happy overnight camper. Like, bro, can you just like throw us a bone once and tell us like one of the big mysteries we have, or give us answers for that, like how Gregory and Vanessa know each other seemingly, or if Gregory is a robot, or who Client 46 is. Please, just give me that instead of questions, and I'll be happy. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, time travel. Seeing a giant ball pit for the first time in an actual FNAF game that wasn't when you had to buy it interests me, alright? Specifically because of the Fazbear Frights books and Into the Pit and the story of the same name. Since in that story we see Oswald, who could travel between 2011 and 1985 by jumping into a ball pit in his local pizzeria that actually used to be a Fazbear joint. And honestly, that book being released and then the ball pit appearing in the FNAF game does not seem like a coincidence. So, it could be possible that we see time travel in this DLC, especially if they wanted to relate it back to the books and the Fazbear Frights books. However, this would be an absolutely terrible idea. Okay, I've once said that this could be a great way to change between in-game times. However, the whole day and night mechanic isn't a thing in the game. So unless they introduce that with this time-traveling ball pit, or one of the ball pits being able to time travel, it would be a bit much. And honestly, it would probably ruin the DLC, if that's a thing. So if you're gonna make like a day as well as a night, then okay, I'll allow it. But if you're not introducing that, there's no point in a time traveling ball pit. And ultimately, in at number 2, more Pizzaplex. Okay, so the Pizzaplex is already pretty damn big. It's confusing to get the places you need to go. There are a couple shortcuts, but it is still difficult to get to certain places. I personally end up going probably the most complicated ways to get back to the main atrium and the like, because I can't be bothered trying to find my way around. But going through the Rockstar row vents to get down to parts and service through Roxy's room is the one way I know works. However, adding more sections to the already confusing Pizzaplex could do more harm than good, and when it comes to something like this, you can't really add a different world space unless you make the story way too complicated. With something like Skyrim, the Forgotten Vale and Solstheim makes sense. However, with FNAF, you can't really have a whole separate area because the whole game takes place in a Pizzaplex and not a specific province of a whole established world. So, more Pizzaplex, while potentially making sense, could end up being counterproductive, especially depending on where we need to go. Maybe use spaces that we've already been in, or add fast travel. And finally, in at number 1, cash grab. The biggest concern that I have with a Security Breach DLC is the possibility of the DLC just really being a cash grab. And while most DLCs could be considered cash grabs, it's really a risk with FNAF in general, especially being new to DLC, like they only have had like one. And like previously mentioned, the confines of the Pizzaplex. If it was something simple like minigames or multiplayer possibilities, I could see it, but the game was already $50. Add on to that the $25 or so that the DLC would run for, and you have the price of some of the highest end games, especially new games. So if there isn't enough content to justify that, I'd be worried about the future for the series, especially since we don't really know the motivations of the person taking over next, because we don't know who is taking over next. It's a slippery slope with a cash grab DLC, and honestly, if there's not enough content or mystery to justify the purchase, I'm probably not going to be purchasing it, despite being a FNAF tuber at this point. Yeah, that's what my life has come to. God damn it. In at 10, minigames. I think that while yes, minigames in the context of this game don't really make sense, a separate area that could perhaps take place before the main game, like during that day, would be interesting. Where we explore the Pizzaplex while it's in day mode, and something like that would be really cool. Like being able to actually see the entire Pizzaplex without all those damn security bots and, you know, the risk of death. And we'd be able to play all the various minigames too. Like we could play the golf and laser tag and bowling and do whatever we actually wanted to do. It would be incredibly fun, and honestly, combine this with the next number and we'd have one hell of a game. Plus, playing Gator Golf on an arcade machine is totally different than playing golf on the actual Monty course. I don't think the two courses are the same, which is unfortunate because the one in the actual Monty Golf area looks awesome. Kind of want that in real life, if I'm being honest. Is there like one of those like Golf with Friends? Is there like a custom map that is the Monty Gator Golf from the Pizzaplex? Because I'd play that. I don't have any friends. But. In at 9, multiplayer. Now, with a working Pizzaplex, there comes the idea that doing this with friends would be an amazing time. And honestly, this is one of the things we've been wanting for ages. While a multiplayer FNAF didn't really make sense before, with a working Pizzaplex, it would make the most sense. Being able to explore the Pizzaplex during the day with friends and even random people online would be awesome. And honestly, if it isn't in a FNAF DLC, I'm sure someone is going to make this happen in like VR chat or Rec Room or something like that. However, if this was in a real FNAF game, I think it would be the most beneficial. Even need VR to play in, despite what the name of the game would suggest. So it would be better for fans unless this came out as like a free DLC of some sort. Which honestly, considering how the game was released unfinished from what I've seen and heard online, a DLC that actually fixed things and gives us the rest of the game better be free. It better just be like an update or something. Still, multiplayer Pizzaplex would be perfect. In at 8, achievements. Now don't get me wrong, this game has plenty of achievements, and some pretty damn difficult ones at that. But seeing some more wouldn't be a horrible idea. I mean, it would give achievement hunters and completionists more to do, and it would give the YouTubers who've already done the game to death more to play. Which, let's face it, it will help everyone in the long run, okay? Creators will have more content to film, Scott will have more eyes on the series for whoever's taking over next, and fans will have something to watch while we just try to ignore the millions of different tasks that we actually have to do instead of watching YouTube. Plus, it'll make it worth the $50 price tag even even more. I feel like it's basically a guarantee that if we do get some form of DLC that will be adding content, we'll also be getting new achievements, because like it's basically impossible to avoid that unless this DLC is just fixing what's broken and not actually anything new. Hopefully we get something new along with some bug fixes, but maybe they're taking the Skyrim approach to this so that 10 years from now they can release a FNAF Security Breach Anniversary Edition while they take 25 years to make the next FNAF game. I'm not salty at all. And it's 7 fixes. Okay, I think it's safe to say that everyone who has played this game, either online or on their own, has experienced some form of glitch, or most likely multiple glitches. Markiplier experienced so many that there's actually a compilation of every time he ran into one. matpat ran into glitches, Eddie VR and Juicy ran into glitches, even I did. I ended up glitching myself back into the DAYCARE for crying out loud, not even intentionally. And not to mention the whole a load of areas don't like to load. And the animatronic AI, let's face it, isn't the best. So I think we're due for some bug fixes. And while they may have updated things a bit to improve the performance, I just played it last week and had some serious issues. So I think that if we're getting a DLC, especially one we may have to pay for, that we are going to need some bug fixes. Although there is no way that we should actually have to pay for these bug fixes. Hell, we shouldn't even have to pay for a DLC if it's just putting the rest of the originally intended game into our game. But I have a feeling that we are going to have to pay for that. And at 6, new ending. While yes, we already do have a canon ending to the game, I feel like there are other things going on, alright? Having a canon ending doesn't discount additional endings from being added, since they could help indicate to us what's going on in this game, or give us something else that could just be a fun thing to achieve, like a joke ending of sorts that gives us something to laugh about. Like if we got an ending that ended up just being the ending from FNAF 1, or Henry's speech from FNAF 6, just something fun that would also make sense, since if it doesn't, we all know for a fact that we would go absolutely ballistic and tear it to shreds. Or maybe we could get an ending where William Afton actually dies, even if it's not the canon one, so I can finally sleep soundly at night. Like, they have the death animations, right? Like, might as well put them to good use. Plus, him dying could be like my alarm in the morning, or like the lullaby I play to fall asleep, as long as it's not a jump scare noise. Because waking up to a jump scare may be a good way to make sure that you don't go back to sleep, but I'm kind of off the whole self-torture thing for the sake of everyone else. Yeah, been there, done that, no thanks. Halfway through, in at number 5, confirmation. Now, we have had a lot of theories about the various aspects of this game, but with all the conflicts, we know that there isn't really going to be a way to solve this without more information. So, what's really the deal going on here, alright? That question is preferably going to be answered if we get a DLC. I mean, Scott himself said that he likes to explain any misconceptions with games in the next one. He did it with FNAF 4's date and the sister location code of 1983, and with FNAF VR's DLC to show that Glitch Trap was intended to be William with the purple car in the FNAF 4 house. So, we could reasonably see some confirmation of some ideas in a Security Breach DLC. Preferably the question of what's the relationship between Vanessa and Gregory, or if Gregory is meant to be a robot and or crying child. Those are probably some of the biggest questions that we really have and would help us solve some of the other issues. Because let's face it, how William came back yet again is of little consequence, and so are various other questions. The biggest ones that we have are about the pro and antagonists. Plus, I just want to be able to say that I've been calling Gregory being a robot for years. Actually, no, it's more like a year. Ever since the Funko statue came up. Okay, I called it. And at 4, Bonnie. Bonnie was missing from Security Breach, having been destroyed most likely by Monty. But perhaps getting to investigate Bonnie's disappearance and being able to change how things go with the Security Breach lineup would certainly be an interesting mission. If we were meant to like truly investigate it, that is, like turn the DLC into a bit of a detective game, I think that would really be a compelling and fun storyline. And from what I've seen, we all just want justice for Bonnie, especially since we want Papa Freddy to be reunited with Bonnie, since he seemingly really misses him, considering the dialogue from the first recharge station, when Gregory asks about Vanny and Freddy says, "There is no bunny at this Pizzaplex, not anymore," in a very somber way. Plus, like I've seen enough animatronic alligator thirst traps on TikTok that I kind of want Monty gone at this point. Like, yes, it was only the one thirst trap, okay, but it was for Monty. That's rough, man. I don't need that. One is too many. Oh, why do we live in a world where animatronic alligator thirst trap makes sense? Getting close to the end in number 3, post-game saving. Please, for the love of God, let us save the damn game after we beat it. especially if the DLC has some decent story to it that involves us probably dying a bunch, because I would rather not have to go through the whole 8-hour game again just to be able to play the DLC and be able to save. That's kind of insane. This is one of my biggest issues with the game. I get that it was for balancing purposes, but for real, this is something that needs to change. Freddy's power isn't even that good, so that alone can balance the whole he can see everything issue, because his battery, even with the 2 upgrades, is trash. So for the love of God, please update the game to allow us to save, or make it a feature in the new DLC, even if it's like an option that we can enable in the menu or settings or something, so that it can be our decision, because I'm horrible at games, so I need to save, especially since we can't save anywhere. Okay, we have to go to specific places to save, so that helps balance it too. Please. And ultimately, in at number 2, CHICA'S Feeding Frenzy. The arcade conspiracy gets its name from one of the duffel bags that you can find, where we learn about something else that seems to be going on here. Quote from this arcade conspiracy note: exit interview. They're working together. The arcades. They're hiding something. The glitches. Glitch them all at the same time, then the princess will recognize me. She's testing me. I am not yet worthy. The others are protecting it. Let me stay. I am so close. Just one more night, please. I can save the princess. Now, it's clear that this seems to be referring to the Princess Quest games. However, it doesn't seem like we have to glitch the Princess Quest games in order to win. We just have to beat them in order from 1 to 3, and then boom, we save Vanny. So what could this mean? Well, there are 3 other arcade machines that seem to be having mysterious glitches as well. The Balloon Boy World game that you can find in the theater, well, in a secret room in the theater. CHICA'S Feeding Frenzy, which won't turn off even when unplugged, that you can find in the bakery. And Monty Golf, a arcade that, according to its duffel bag, shouldn't be in the mini golf area, but is. However, while you can play both Balloon Boy World and the Monty Golf game, CHICA'S Feeding Frenzy isn't an arcade cabinet. You can only access it using a mod that lets you cheat it in from the main menu. So adding this to the game could mean that there's something bigger going on than a simple DLC, which I would love. And finally, in at number 1, level 10 security access. Now, the highest level of security access that you can get is level 8. This just requires you to do every one of the little security room minigames. However, with level 8 being the highest you can actually achieve, it begs the question, why are there doors with level 10 security? Because if it's impossible to achieve, what's the point of giving them a security level at all? There are plenty of other doors in the game that are locked or out of order that don't open at all. So why not just make the doors that would have been level 10 just unopenable, okay? That seems more efficient to me. I don't have to walk up and get a giant thing on my screen that says level 10 access required. But, like, the thing is, they could be saving these areas for a potential DLC that would end up having to add 2 more security passes. Since if you actually end up no-clipping through the doors with level 10 access, there is nothing behind them at all. It would be nice to get some additional areas in a DLC, and like a separate area seems a bit unrealistic. This isn't Skyrim where you can add like a whole new world space or a dimension, so these level 10 areas would give us that extra sense of new content while also expanding the Pizzaplex in a reasonable way. We'd need 2 more security minigames though, which would have to be in additional areas, but I mean, hey, I'm willing to